Truth can be hard for Liberals to accept. I'm Brian Lilley with TheRebel.Media. We've been told by Liberals across the country for months now that the fact is Canada is in deficit.
We are not going to make political promises of balancing the budgets when we know that we are right now in deficit.
Arithmetic produced by the Parliamentary Budget Officer would indicate that the government's books are in the red for this fiscal year to the extent of about $1 billion.
Well, golly gee, surprise, surprise. Must have hurt their egos when they woke up on Monday morning and found out that the audited financial statements of Canada, covering the full fiscal year 2014-2015, signed off on by the Auditor General of Canada, say that, well, no, actually it was a surplus last year. That's right. Finance Canada reports a $1.9 billion surplus for the last fiscal year. So obviously, when the Liberals heard that and were asked about it, they said, oh, yeah, sorry, our mistake. No, in fact, that's not how they reacted at all.
We are in deficit right now. Mr. Harper has put us in deficit this year. As for last year's numbers, we know and we saw Mr. Harper underspending and making cuts to Veterans Affairs, to Aboriginal Affairs, to seniors in the billions of dollars so that he could balance the books in time for his election. It was a political goal that actually has helped us slide into the recession.
Justin Trudeau, who has said, if elected, he will keep running deficits, is very worried about the Conservatives' deficits because he wants to use that as a stick to beat them. He wants to show that they're bad fiscal managers, so we should put him in so he can be a worse fiscal manager. Look, I'm not following his logic because I don't think there really is any logic behind what he's trying to do other than use a deficit, which Canadians generally don't like, as a stick to beat the government. He wants to take power. That much we know. But he had a claim there. He said that this was enough, this cut in spending was enough to put Canada into recession. Let's look at how we arrived at the fiscal surplus for 2014-2015. Was it all through cuts? No. From the document itself, revenues totaled $282.3 billion in 2014-15, $10.7 billion more than the year before. And what about expenses? Well, expenses totaled $280.4 billion in 2014-15. That's $3.6 billion more than the year before. This reflected increases in major transfers to persons and other levels of government, offset in part by decreases in direct program spending and public debt charges. What's that translate into? All right, well, major transfers to persons and provinces, those would be health and education transfers from the federal government to the provinces. Those would be pension checks and childcare checks and the like. Those are your transfers. Direct program spending, down. Public debt charges, down. Great, we're spending less on servicing the debt. But is about $800 million worth of lower government spending on direct program spending, when overall spending is up by $3.6 billion, is that enough to trounce a $2 trillion economy into a recession? Give me a break, Justin Trudeau. I know that you're no economist, but you have to know better than that. Your handlers have to know better than that. But the fact is they don't. I mean, they still buy into the line that Trudeau made famous, that the budget's just going to, well, you know it.
The commitment needs to be a commitment to grow the economy, and the budget will balance itself.
But of course, budgets don't balance themselves, especially when you want to make infrastructure investments that are really about expanding social programs, and when you want to make infrastructure investments that are about bringing Ontario's type of green energy plan to the rest of the country, just like Jerry Butts did when he was Dalton McGuinty's principal secretary. So this is the reality, people. Canada is doing better than projected. We are in a fiscal surplus. We're in fiscal surplus for the first 3 months of the current fiscal year. Does that mean that's going to stay? No, not necessarily. But it's not the doldrums the other parties would have you believe. It's not the doldrums many in the media would have you believe. Are there challenges? Absolutely. I've got a friend out in Alberta who just lost his job. He wasn't in the oil patch, but his job loss is a direct result of the decrease in economic activity out in what was the booming economy of Canada. So yeah, there's problems out there. But trying to claim that the whole economy is in the tank because of the slight drop in spending of Stephen Harper? No, it doesn't equate. And as far as the whole economy being in the tank because of the bad fiscal policies of Stephen Harper, that doesn't equate either. The reality is much more complex, but given that Justin Trudeau said we were in deficit when we weren't, given that he says we're still in deficit and that's a bad thing, but he wants to run more, that should tell you where his mind is at when it comes to economics. It's not fully engaged, you might say.